Both DC and Marvel have made strides in the past decades to be more inclusive companies in and outside of their universes, giving a platform to deserving black and brown writers and artists, creating a plethora of black and brown characters that have taken the cultural zeitgeist by storm. Miles Morales, Static, John Stewart, Black Panther, just to name a few. But what if I told you just because representation was improving doesn't mean that they are committed to these characters? Because of all the characters I just named, as of next month will not have an ongoing main universe title. In fact, DC in particular hasn't had a black character as a main character in a main universe ongoing solo series in over 1,000 days. And with Avengers Doomsday presumably bringing back Steve Rogers as a main character, I think it officially confirms Marvel never cared to do anything with Sam Wilson's Captain America. I mean, the only logical conclusion someone would come to is that they don't care about their black and brown characters. In an industry like this, you can always show face, give a few characters a miniseries here, an important role in a team book there, and always make sure to bring them out in accordance to the month where their background is celebrated.
You light my fire.
As of right now, I think it is fair to say these companies don't truly care about committing to representation, because if they did, they would allow these black and brown characters more leeway with ongoing runs and big screen validation. Here, let me explain. An ongoing comic is basically a series that doesn't have a determined ending. The creative team at the time might have an ending for their story that they want to tell, but once they're done, another creative team hops on the book and tells their story under the same title. Another important detail of the ongoing distinction is that it is a book that goes over 12 issues or over a year. Ongoings are not only creator friendly by guaranteeing them a job for months on end, it also is tremendously beneficial for a character's growth. Nightwing currently has the longest ongoing in DC Comics right now, and the book has been through 8 creative teams, 4 initiative revamps, and it's still chugging. The benefit with these books is that characters get to fail forward because they can have bad issues, bad arcs, or even whole runs that are just complete dog shit.
Cut him from the team!
But to know this character can get a chance to recover sometime soon is what keeps people coming back eventually. Miles Morales is the only black character as of January 2026 to have an ongoing in the main universe, but like I said before, his series will be ending this month at 42. Side note, I wonder if they did that on purpose because everyone knows about the number 42 significance to Miles. But black and brown characters are usually subjugated to mini and limited series. These are small contained stories with a planned end date that usually a lot of new readers can jump onto quickly and easily because it requires no background knowledge. I don't have a huge dislike of this series format, but I think specifically with miniseries, it's supposed to show a proof of concept for a character and story, making sure there's an audience for that character with 6 issues before giving them an ongoing. But lately it doesn't seem like that's the case for these miniseries, specifically with black characters. Steel, Cyborg, Black Lightning all received mini issues but never anything more. But a series like Green Lantern Rebirth was a 6-issue miniseries that reintroduced Hal as Green Lantern again, and it was received so well that Jeff Johns got to write an ongoing Green Lantern series that went on for 60 issues and completely redefined the Green Lantern mythos. And a couple of years later, he got to write Flash Rebirth, a miniseries that reintroduced Barry Allen. And what happened next? He received an ongoing series that led into Flashpoint, which led into the New 52, which is something we just don't need to talk about.
Timeline got fucked up.
Even most recently, Zatanna had a fantastic miniseries which led her to getting her own ongoing next year, a part of DC's Next Level Initiative. And since I brought up the Next Level Initiative, let's just talk about it right now. This is supposed to be DC's next era, like Dawn of DC, but this time the distinction is that they are going to give underutilized and quote-unquote second-tier characters ongoings. Deathstroke, Lobo, Batwoman, all characters that are receiving titles in the coming months. But do you notice something that is missing from this list? There's no black or brown characters, and frankly, they're the definition of underutilized. I mean, I know everyone loves Deathstroke, even after the Epstein files, but I think if you wanted to highlight a villainous character, you should do Bane. He's a villain we last saw fighting Damian years removed from killing Alfred. There hasn't been much use for him as a character in the universe for a couple of years, but apparently he's in Hush 2, which I personally refuse to read, so I have no idea what's going on there. But Deathstroke got a full series of the New 52 that showed you why he's a certified piece of shit. And you don't necessarily have to go that route with Bane. It could have been something different, Not saying that this Deathstroke series won't be different from the last, I'm just saying that the character we focus on could be selected more optimally. Actually, I should just go through characters with a ton of potential for an ongoing right now. We haven't seen much from Luke Cage since Devil's Reign, where he became the freaking mayor of New York, a role that you think would warrant a series about his new position and the problems and status quo changes that would occur. And you know, similar to Luke Cage, Black Lightning has always been a person similar to him in the DC universe. He is a hero that is constantly at odds with the Justice League because he fights for his community and his people, a self-labeled outsider that is never afraid to tell the truth. He received a miniseries a couple years ago with his daughters, and it was fun and all, but like I said before, how to grow these characters' narrative and popularity is through consistent commitment through ongoings. I think they had the right idea with the miniseries being a family ordeal, and the premise could work as an ongoing series, as we've seen this type of book throughout the years, like with the Bat Family, Arrow and Canary, and most similarly Tomasi's Superman. I hope DC is looking into making a full series for Mr. Terrific to capitalize off his hype from James Gunn's Superman movie, because his year one miniseries was great this year, and that's coming from a guy that doesn't like origin stories that much. Batman Year One? Overrated. Born to Run? Nah. Green Lantern Secret Origin? It's kind of fire, but anyway, back to the topic. Following the success of Mr. Terrific Year One, it would be great to see Michael have his own solo run again. Seeing it looks like he's getting kicked off his own team that he was holding together with duct tape and bandages, the Justice League Unlimited after DCKO, and with the Terrifics not being a thing right now, it seems like the perfect time to have him venture off into a solo run for a while. But if you couldn't tell already, I'm a big DC guy, and even though DC is putting belt to Marvel's ass comics wise, I still find it strange that they don't try to capitalize on characters that are similar to their marquee guys. For example, Jaime Reyes. For decades, DC wanted to have a solo teenage superhero like Spider-Man, and when they did, they actually did pretty well with him, all things considered. He's always been a part of the universe through many ongoings since his creation, and has been a part of the Titans for a considerable amount of time, and most importantly, he was in shows like Brave and the Bold and Young Justice, and he started to become a recognizable name and character to most people. But when he finally got his big screen debut in 2023, that should have been the boom for the character. After that movie, he should have always had a book coming out no matter what, because he's a character that demands that kind of attention. It doesn't matter how the movie performed or how good it was, it's just something that is present for some reason. Harley Quinn has always had an ongoing since Suicide Squad. Black Adam had a crazy push in 2022, and he's still a pretty big deal in DC right now. But with Blue Beetle, he just got a short-lived limited series that was really fun, showing his new young adult life. It was supposed to be a new era for the character, but instead he's a backup character in Justice League Unlimited that's lucky if he gets 2 lines. DC also has an Iron Man stand-in with John Henry Irons that is barely used, but I hope can get some more utilization, seeing that Superman is going to disappear after DCKO. He holds a pretty unique place in the Superman family, being the only one without powers or married to a person with powers. What puts him on the level of Supes is his intellect and his wealth, and not to explore that more I think could be a waste, as you could easily carve him in an Iron Man role into your universe. Someone similar to John and his own family dynamics is the Signal, or Duke Thomas. He has the exact opposite relationship with his family, seeing he's the only Bat family member with powers. Well, now there's Cassandra Cain going to have bloodbending powers, but still, Duke operates in Gotham pretty much alone in the daytime, and that could be an easy series for DC, seeing they already have at least 10 Bat family books running at once, and having them take place in Gotham all at night. He could easily add some variety in the linchpin that seems to be holding your company together. But DC Comics actually has a sleeping powerhouse on their hands with a character like Vixen. She seriously has some Superman level strength potential for you power scalers out there. Everyone should know Mari McCobb can mimic animals' abilities through her connection with the Red, but what a lot of people may not know is that she can also mimic the abilities of Justice Leaguers, because they're animals too. So she could have the powers of Superman if she needed, or Green Arrow, or Flash, and I feel like they're losing out by not expanding on that, because these freaking greasy power scalers would eat that junk up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Plus, she's a fashionista, and what you looky here, Stephanie Williams is literally trying to manifest an opportunity to write a Vixen solo story. So let's get on that, DC. But I guess it's time to address the elephant in the room. When talking about potential in Black characters, it's clear that Milestone Media should be the priority. The 90s comic company that introduced the world to Static, Hardware, Icon, and Rocket, and many other diverse characters. In the 90s, their comics were considered risky, but today we consider their stories progressive and thought-provoking. Milestone characters were always unique because they were set in a world outside the DC universe, and their stories weren't affected or influenced by DC editorial. All ideas came straight from the Milestone creators. This part partnership soon faded though, and Static most notably was included in the DCU and went on to appear in small roles across other DC animated projects. He was also brought into the DC universe in the 2000s, being a member of the Titans for a little bit, and almost made it onto the new Young Justice team before Barry fucks everything up.
Them the niggas we got to kill and get rid of, them kind of niggas.
There's always been legal trouble involving these characters, and that's the main reason why these characters haven't been a big fixture in the DC universe as time has passed. But I think going forward, DC seems to have some kind of rights to these characters, and they have already tried to implement these characters into the universe by saying they all just mysteriously disappeared, and we'll all find out how they come back in, surprise surprise, the annual Black History Month special, a book that they do every year that leads absolutely nowhere. Which honestly concerns me because these are original Black and Brown characters created by Black and Brown creators. So if there's any Black or Brown heroes that need to have an ongoing, it should be someone from the Dakotaverse. As of right now, DC has not announced any plans for these characters following the event, but even if they did, do we know if they would even follow through? Because on the movie and TV side of things, their announcements seem to conveniently just fall through. Milestone was supposed to have a whole animated movie, but it just disappeared, and Michael B. Jordan was supposed to produce a Static movie, but again, we have not heard a peep since. We could chalk it up to the rights issues, but honestly, this seems like a trend for all Black characters in adaptations to the big and small screen. Even on the other side of the biz, Marvel is not innocent from the delay and somewhat forgetful attitude towards their minority characters. Everyone knows about the consistent rewrites and delays of Blade, a character that practically saved Marvel in the late 90s. They even have an A-tier actor already signed on, and they still struggle to get a project together, but compare that to Sony fast-tracking Venom just because Tom Hardy was attached, or when Fox believed Ryan Reynolds could make something good out of Deadpool with a second try. Studios would usually go out their way to please their superstar actor, but not over here. Another project that was just left in the dust was Armor Wars, a project that was supposed to center on Rhodey and the fallout of Tony's death and his armors falling into the wrong hands. This series, or movie, as it was later turned into, could have been a great follow-up for the Iron Man franchise since they're so attached to this side of the universe for some reason, but it just never went forward. And now after Secret Invasion, I just don't think they want to jump through all those hoops to make this thing happen. It's been years and Stark Industries has been long gone. Instead, they decided to continue the Iron Man franchise partially with a character like Ironheart, but for some reason they didn't fully support this project. It could have been because it came at the latter end of the Disney shows, or maybe they just didn't believe in the narrative. Either way, there was barely any marketing for this show, and the release of the show was delayed nearly 2 years before its 6th episode dump on Disney Plus, 3 episodes at a time. So far, all the examples I've talked about shows how Marvel doesn't care, but I think the T'Challa situation might show that they care a little too much to the point where they damage a character and IP. I love Wakanda Forever and the arc Shuri goes through in the film, and I feel it was necessary for the cast and crew working on the film to make a project that was about grief and remembrance for their friend, but I feel like Marvel saw this as a green light to just ghost T'Challa in every other form of media. Seeing he is currently not in the MCU, he was excluded from the Captain America Black Panther game. Obviously it takes place in the past, but if T'Challa was currently in the MCU, they would have killed to change the premise of that game to have synergy. In the comics, T'Challa has been banished from his own country, and in the shows like X-Men 97, they just bluntly retcon T'Challa out of the universe and use T'Chaka instead. Like, I get they might be showing respect to Chadwick, but it low-key feels like they're using this as a pass or an excuse to shelve the character into irrelevancy when that is far from what Chadwick would want for the character. Something that I've always had a love-hate relationship with is race-swapped characters, because on one hand, it's always good to have representation, and if you have to change the race of a character that never had much connection with said race in the beginning, then I guess it's okay, but it also takes away from the actual original minority characters that have been created but barely adapted. And with that being said, even the race-swapped characters have trouble getting it out the mud. For some reason, WB was obsessed with the idea of a Black Superman movie, to the point they greenlit 2 different movies, even though Milestone had Icon, a real Black Superman. But rights issues, yeah, we get it, probably wouldn't have done it anyway. One movie was focused on Val Zod, an alternate Superman that Michael B. Jordan was producing, and who knows, might have even starred in it. And also they were developing a race-swapped Clark Kent movie that would take place during the Civil Rights era, and it was written and produced by J.J. Abrams and Ta-Nehisi Coates. By the way, a J.J. Abrams that was on a $250 million contract that had done zilch for WB at this point, and he's only done 1 project since signing that deal. This This is why they're going bankrupt, people, by the way. I just want people to know that. Silly ass deals like this. Both of these films are acts when the Discovery and Warner Bros. Merger went through, and new CEO David Zaslav reportedly claimed they were too woke.
He's an idiot.
And Zaslav wasn't done with his hostile takeover because for some reason he thought it was a better option to shelve an already filmed Batgirl movie that featured a black female lead and then to release it and maybe charge a price for it on his streaming service. I mean, they did it with the shitty ass Wonder Woman 84 movie. 90 million was already spent on the thing, and no one cancels an already filmed movie because it just looks crazy. But hey, they did that shit for sure. But the biggest black scandal doesn't even involve Zaslav, surprisingly, and that's Ray Fisher's Cyborg. His screen time and story was heavily cut in the theatrical release of Justice League, and I'm not even a Cyborg on a Justice League guy. Hell, I'm not even a Zack Snyder guy. But after watching his 4-hour Justice League movie, there's literally no way that movie works without Cyborg's story, and you can't just simply cut it for time. Not to mention that Ray Fisher hates WB's guts for the way he was treated on set. It just reeks of some sort of prejudice. But most of those heads are gone now, so I guess in the end, Ray kinda won, if you consider being a regular in Zack Snyder's movies a win. I mentioned previously the lack of support for Anthony Mackie as Captain America, and I really do believe that bringing back Steve for maybe a last hurrah or even a cash grab just completely kills what this saga was supposed to be. Legacy was clearly a big theme of the multiverse saga, and it clearly has fallen flat. The way you're promoting your penultimate end is with a character no one has seen in 6 years, and who was presumably replaced by a successor who was constantly overshadowed marketing wise by a what-if version of Captain America, Captain Carter. I mean, they kept trying to push this character for some reason. No one cared for her in the first place. What if Doctor Strange, and she even is in Doomsday now with a big role? Same story was mishandled from the start. The show should have been the movie, and the next movie should have been a new Avengers to properly introduce him as a new cornerstone and leader of the Avengers. But Loki seems like Legacy for black characters is similar around the board like this. John Stewart is one of the first black superheroes. He's considered one of the best Legacy characters, but I find it's kind of weird his origins are changed to mold him to be more like his previous Lanterns. For example, adding the military backstory to his character. But they kind of do this with a lot of Green Lanterns now. Guy was a social worker and a special ed teacher, but that was changed to be an ex-cop. Kyle has some government connections through his dad. The Green Lantern office has an obsession with background in police. I mean, they are quote-unquote space cops, but I think John, as a black man, it hurts his character the most. When he was introduced in 1971, he was a college-educated architect that wasn't afraid to call it authority, and his personality wasn't the stoic, almost dry one most people headcanonify to him today. That personality would make sense for him after Cosmic Odyssey, if you know, you know, but developing that personality because of the Justice League animated series and the military background just doesn't feel right to me. Like, as a self-respecting black man, especially in the late 60s, early 70s, the last thing he would do is voluntarily join the Marines. Like, I get if he's drafted into the Vietnam War, I guess, or maybe he went through with the war on terror because he thought this was the right thing to do, but that would be only if he was ridden to regret that decision and not glorify his time in the military by dressing up as a sniper every chance he gets. Like, we get it, this nigga was 360 no-scoping children in 03, but if I'm being real, a lot of writers use the military, police, or some type of authority presence to attract a certain audience so they can feel at ease or quote-unquote relatable. I went through John Stewart's case, but there's also Luke Cage being a whole victim of the prison industrial system, but being changed to an ex-Marine in the MCU for no reason at all. They showed Sam in his movie trying to prove himself as Captain America by fighting for approval of the government instead of doing what he does in the comics, which is look out for the people and communities that get overlooked by the heroes. Monica Rambeau, Blue Marvel, Misty Knight, you can go on and on with the amount of black characters that for some reason need a military or police background to be taken seriously as a hero when white counterparts get to challenge the government and perceived aggressions of systems. Like, that was most of Tony and Steve's arcs when they were in the Infinity Saga, and the one black character that gets to act similarly to these characters is treated as a villain. Honestly, I'll consider him a villain too for introducing that fuck-ass Bob to the masses. I noted all of this to show how black and brown writers really make a difference when writing a character of color. I like Jeff Johns' era of Green Lantern, but even he had no idea what to do with John Stewart. He sidelined the fuck out of him while all three of the other Lanterns had main roles in other books, and I get it, he just couldn't crack the John Stewart code for real, but someone like John Ridley could actually get straight to the root of the character with no problem in the other history of the DC universe. A book where the history of the DC universe is told through the eyes of black characters in the universe, and it is here where I finally resonated with a modern John Stewart adaptation. Ridley gave John a reason to have the personality he did. The pressure of being the first black anything is hard enough, but the first black superhero, minus I guess Mal Duncan maybe, either way, he was gonna be a little aloof, and that could come off as arrogant, but what he is trying to do is be an example for a black hero and represent his community properly. So yeah, he might hover and not touch the floor of the school he visits, completely forgetting he's a mortal man just like them, and he might have just been too cocky in a mission that led to the destruction of a planet, which led him to severe depression. But the way the Fallout is handled gave me a new look on John entirely, and he is not the only one. I mean, Vixen under Dwayne McDuffie got those butts I was talking about earlier. Murawa Awadele's recent Storm run is incredible and literally made her a true goddess. I haven't personally read the run yet, but everyone raves about Cody Ziegler's run on Miles, saying it's the first time that Miles feels like he's a black Puerto Rican kid from Brooklyn. I truly believe the common denominator in good black and brown heroes is the people that create the art, and they are at their best when those creators come from the same background as the characters they write or draw. So going forward, I think if DC and Marvel want to truly invest and commit to these characters, whether that be in TV and movies or new comic initiatives like Next Level, please get black and brown creators involved. And also for the viewer and consumer, just support the books and characters that you like, and also support the writers that you like as well. It's important to show Marvel and DC that there is interest in these characters and they should invest more time into them. But that's all I had to say for real. Kind of long-winded, I know. Tell me what you think in the comments. Do you think Marvel and DC have a problem, or am I just chatting shit? Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.